Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're just getting started today. We'll give a minute for people to sign on. Christopher and Lior, if you can take the pictures of the logo off, that would be helpful. Well, we've had an overwhelming response to today's webinar, Voices of Apeirogon. And I see already there's more than 600 people here with us. So that is very overwhelming in a positive way. I mean, it just is another reinforcement that there are so many people out there supporting the work that we are doing, despite even the hardest and most awful of circumstances. So many people are searching for hope and for a way forward that does not involve bereavement and does not involve violence. So thank you for still believing and for being with us here today. My name is Shiri Orion. I'm the Executive Director of the American Friends of the Parent Circle. I'm so honored to have with us three of my favorite people, Rami and Elhanan, Bassam, Aramin, and Colum McCann. Bassam and Rami are two bereaved fathers from the Parent Circle. They both lost their daughters to the conflict, and they've both chosen a path of reconciliation rather than the revenge. And they are way more than that. They are true heroes of mine, and they are the protagonists of the acclaimed novel, award-winning novel written by our very dear friend, Colum McCann, who is with us here today. Colum, thank you for joining us so much. We're so grateful to have you here. Besides being an award-winning author, Colum is also the president and co-founder of an incredible nonprofit called Narrative 4. He teaches at Hunter College in New York. And we are so grateful not only for you being here, but for giving the world the gift of Apeirogon, which was a New York Times bestseller. I'm going to assume that most of you have read Apeirogon or at least heard about Apeirogon. If not, you should definitely go out and read it. I want to turn it over to Bassam and Rami and Colum right away. I just want to tell you a little bit about what's been happening for me and for Parent Circle since October 7th and the aftermath. Bassam and Rami used to be the co-directors of the Parent Circle and still have been, they've been interviewing and spreading messages around the world about the possibility of hope in this terrible tragedy that we've experienced and the way forward. And we're going to have an opportunity. This is being recorded. It will be shared. You'll have a chance to ask questions. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. There's a little Q&A icon. That's where I'm going to take the questions towards the end. Before we delve into some of the deeper issues, I want to tell you that Parent Circle is a joint Israeli-Palestinian organization made up of more than 700 bereaved members, Israelis and Palestinians like Rami and Bassam, who have lost loved ones to the conflict and have chosen to share their stories with the general public in Israel and Palestine throughout the world so that people know that there is a possibility for peace. There is a way forward that does not include violence. There is a way if people who have suffered the greatest tragedy possible can choose peace, then anyone should be able to. And Parent Circle has been on the ground working with reaching out to newly bereaved families. Sadly, there are many, many more newly bereaved families. Some of them have already joined the Parent Circle and trying to do a lot of repair and healing and recovery work. And we're going to get into that today. Colum, Bassam, Rami, tell us just for quickly, where are you? How are you? And what has your life been like since October 7th? They're going to argue about who goes first, which is always the greatest conflict among these three. Thank God that's
Everyone knows that Rami goes first.
okay. Rami, you're on.
I don't have the energy to fight with you guys, but I'm sitting in my study in Kiryat Yam in Haifa near my grandkids, which we go there every weekend. This is exactly the place when we have been in the October 7th. It was a blow. It was devastating. It was the most horrible news I ever got, except my own personal one. I was talking to friends and relatives in Be'eri, Kibbutz Be'eri. Nurit's cousin lives in Kibbutz Be'eri, my friend Igal Zorea. And we were talking to them while they were listening to the steps outside and hearing the shots and the agony outside. And ever since then, I feel that my world turns upside down several times. Bassam and myself, we've given dozens of interviews all around the world, the US Today, the John Oliver, things that we never thought will ever reach us. And the message is very clear and very profound and very basic. We did not change our minds. We did not get sober out of our basic positions. We understand, we as those people who paid the highest price possible, we understand that the conflict did not start on October 7th. And then we need to look at the wider picture. We need to rise up above the last event, as difficult as it is, which is difficult, and look at the wider picture and understand that we must do everything in our power to stop it, to stop this endless cycle of violence, this endless bloodshed, this very long lines of dead children, Israelis and Palestinians, which are paying the price of these mafia dons that are fighting above our heads and making us paying those prices. And this gives us a new strength and a new purpose and a reason to get out of bed in the morning to show the people which are not still with us that there is only one way. It will not stop unless we talk to each other. We need to stop killing each other. We need to start talking to each other.
Thank you, Rami. Well, I'm in New York, and I know Bassam likes to go last. He likes to take the position last. So I'll tell you where I am. Every single day since early October, I have thought about these two men. And the first day I got in touch with them and I sent them an email. How are you? And we went over WhatsApp, and it struck me that these two men who are amongst my great friends, and who I think are leaders in extraordinary ways, that they were cursed by hope. And I say cursed by hope because it is a big burden. I think today we can talk about hope without being accused of being naive, without being accused of being sentimental. I think hope has a muscularity to it, and it's embodied in the words and the actions of Rami and Bassam. In one of those interactions, Bassam had sent me a message, and then Rami had sent me a teardrop emoji, and I just thought, well, there's so much going on there that, and I knew we'd turned a corner, but I also knew that the message would always be the same. And it struck me that Rami and Bassam have said, we don't need to love each other. We don't even need to like each other, even though we hope that we can, but we absolutely have to understand one another. And so today, I think we'll talk about new forms of understanding, and maybe the depth of strength it takes to still believe that this message that they have has a power. And so I look at the people signing in from all over the world, and quite honestly, it makes me teary. One of the last times I got teary in public was when I met these two men in Beit Jala 7 years ago. And I think of all the work that they've done. I see people coming in from Spain, from Portugal, from Ireland, from Russia, everywhere, all over the United States. And I know that this is really a reflection of the vast majority of people who don't define the edges, and we're all looking for some form of answers. And I do believe that they reside within Rami and Bassam. Bassam.
Thank you, Colum. Especially this time, I want to start first, but you know, I'm a Palestinian. No one listen to me. Right now, I am in Jericho, in the West Bank, and directly to talk about the 7th of October. To be honest, it takes me and Rami even a few days to understand. So in the morning, when I start to hear the news, so I call Rami to make sure that he's okay, he's fine, and I still joking. I said to him, you know, you have a shelter here in Jericho, come here and I will protect you. Finally, we are going to occupy you. Then we start to hear the news. It was very serious. You know, briefly, after the 7th of October, we have the 8th of October and the 9th of October and until the 13th of November, unfortunately. But one thing, it was like we never change it. We know in advance, exactly as Rami said. In the end, we need to sit down and talk. So why we continue killing each other? Let us sit down and talk from now. Let us save those thousands and thousands of innocent people from both sides. I understand how much is painful, and I start to hear from the Israelis that it's the first time since the Holocaust. And as you know, I have a master degree about the Holocaust, so I know exactly what they're talking about. Yes, it was a horrible event, but when you talk to the Palestinians, they will say it's our daily life. Since 75 years, every 2 years, we have another war in Gaza. Now, what is the solution? The solution to have justice. It means always we said that since 20 years, when we start to talk, we said one day it will blow up in our faces. No one can occupy another people and expect them to keep silence. The situation on the ground, it's unbelievable. But in fact, we didn't expect the same attack, but it's happened. Now, how to deal with the result? Always we said that they just invest in more blood, more pain, more hatred for the next time. It's another round. So how to stop it? By achieve justice. So it means that the price of this blood is a peace agreement, or to achieve justice, to start a peace process, a political process between the Israelis and the Palestinians. It's very easy to blame the Israelis. It's very easy to blame the Palestinians. It's more easy for someone like me to blame the British and the Americans because they are not here. But we need to blame them, yes. It's a superpower since 75 years. They can make war in 5 hours. They cannot make peace in the Middle East for the last 75 years. To be honest, I believe Israelis and Palestinians, sometimes we look more stupid, or we are more stupid than we look, because we continue killing each other, because we are victims, both of us. If you see the Mu'assat Bitachon,
Security Council.
the Security Council, how those people vote on behalf of our lives to make a ceasefire? No, it's good, it's bad, and people are dying. We are suffering. Only today, 3 Israelis and 2 Palestinian kids in Jenin. Only today, or maybe 4 Palestinians even. It's every day, without any connection with the 7th of October. More than 230 Palestinians killed since the 7th of October. And before that, it's the same. So only by raising our voice, as Rami said, we will do our best to raise up our voice and to say there is no alternative. We are not going to disappear. No one will win. Not the Palestinians or Hamas in this case, and not the Israelis with all their powers, with the Americans and the British and the French. We are going to stay here in this land. It's to share it as 2 states or 1 state or 5 states, as always we said, or we will share it as 2 big graves to our kids, our families, and our people. And I am full of hope that after this bloodshed, after these massacres, we must raise up our voice again and take our destiny to our hands and understand that our lives is more important than any holy lands. We love this land. We have no other land to go, so we need to exist on it. Oh, already we are dying. We are meeting each other under the ground. So it's up to us. And we said it's possible. It's not a dream. And here we are. It's an example, me and Rami and thousands of Israelis and Palestinians who believe this is the only solution.
Bassam, well said. I mean, I think you're very right. There are no winners. There are only losers in this situation. We have lost a lot of trust, and we have lost a lot. There's been a great damage among all the human suffering that we've witnessed over the past few months. It's damaged the hope for peace. It's damaged trust between Israelis and Palestinians, the little that existed beforehand, and maybe even dealt a severe blow to the prospect of peace. So how do we rebuild from here? How do we rebuild trust? I know even among the peace community, I know even among our Israeli and Palestinian staff and our alumni, and even among our bereaved members, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of trust that's been lost. So how do we recover? How do we heal? What are the steps that need to be taken to rebuild? And do you still believe? I mean, I believe, I think that you do, considering that you're here, but tell us, how do we recover from this?
I want to start first. You know, when we create Combatants for Peace back in 2005, we have this slogan for Nelson Mandela. He says, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy, not only to talk. Then your enemy become your partner. Now, to have an enemy partner, it's not something easy. The problem, how to trust your enemy partner, because you want to make peace with him. Only when we meet each other as human beings, to look in the eyes of each other, to listen to the pain of the other. It means to your enemy, not the other side, to your enemy exactly. When you discover your enemy is exactly like you have the same hope, aspiration, dreams, then he will be ready to listen to your pain, to your story, to your narrative. Rami said it, it's to respect each other. And we have a problem, to be honest, in this case here between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I understand that the majority of the Israelis and the Palestinians, they want peace, but the same majority, they don't trust each other. They scare from each other. We have a serious problem, the Jewish superiority. Many Israelis, especially the right wing, they cannot see us. Not see us to talk to us, they cannot see us physically on the streets. and we feel that. This is one of the main problems. In spite of that, if we only have the opportunity, we only have the safe space or the safe place just to talk to each other. They are human beings. They are full of fear. And this is what I claim, that the real enemy of the Palestinians in the Israeli side is the Israeli fear. And the same of the Palestinians. So I don't believe that there is alternative from meeting each other and talking to each other. Then, step by step, we'll start to talk about education. It's very important to start to educate, that to accept the other sometimes your neighbor. No, the other side means the enemy side as a human being, because we don't see each other as human beings. This has happened to me. This has happened to my brother Rami. When we meet each other, we meet each other as enemies. And we discover that we are very simple human beings. And then we start to create this partnership to trust each other. And today, not today, in fact, many years ago, I will elect Rami to go to negotiate with the Israelis and the Americans in my name while I am traveling to Canada, for example, because I trust him.
So I'll come in on this because I think that what Bassam has said is extraordinarily important. Education. Where does all this begin? Where's the ground roots of this? Where's this repair going to begin? The theme of our times, we're living in broken times, not only Israel, Palestine, but all over the world. And we're looking for some form of repair. Where does the repair come in? I personally believe that the repair comes in the form of storytelling, and as both Rami and Bassam say, learning to listen to one another. But it's personal storytelling that I think is profoundly important. Not people standing up and being didactic and saying, this is what you must believe and this is how you must believe, and there is only one way. There's so much more than one truth that is available to us. And one of the things that I learned in writing Apeirogon, and when I got time to spend with these young people, is that this story doesn't belong just in Israel and Palestine, but it belongs everywhere. And we have on this webinar today, we have young people coming in from schools in Eastern Kentucky who have read the story of Rami and Bassam, and they are emotionally invested in it, and they're emotionally invested in finding out what is going on in the Middle East, because they were prepared to engage in the story. Why were they allowed to engage in a story? Well, first of all, they had teachers who were brave enough to bring the topic into the classroom, to begin to talk, to say that this story belongs in so many other places. I do fundamentally believe that a shift in the way that we treat our teachers, a shift in the way that we treat what we talk about, giving young people an opportunity to talk about mature and difficult subjects, to say that it's okay to be confused. It's okay for this stuff to be messy. You don't actually need to know what happened 48, 67. What you really need to know is who were those young girls who were killed all those years ago. Who are these two men who are brave enough to call each other brothers? And when you get an insight into the personal, then you will get a deeper insight into the historical, and the social, and the political. It all begins in the personal, and I think so much of it, and so much of the recovery and the repair that you're talking about, Shuri, will happen on a fundamental grassroots level, outside of these parliaments and outside of these battlefields, in these school classrooms, where the real work of rebuilding will have to occur. Rami.
Thank you, Colum. Thank you, Bassam. And I enjoyed listening to you, and I really tend to agree with you this time. I always say this, and I'm not getting tired of saying it again and again. When we get into a high school class, Bassam and myself, the earth is shaking. The earth is moving. It's like walking into the open mouth of an active volcano. And these are two societies at war. They need to prepare the young generation to be able to sacrifice themselves when time comes, and they hide each other. They demonize each other. So when we get into a high school class, for most of them, it's the first time ever in their life they see an Israeli and a Palestinian together, which are not fighting each other, which are calling each other brother, which are not putting their pain on the table, trying to compare whose pain is bigger, who started what, who's to blame, which is exactly what is happening today. And I refuse to take part in it. I refuse to join the team of my football fans to say this side is right and this side is wrong. This side is completely black and this side is completely white. The two sides are to blame. I think the damage that Hamas created for the Palestinian cause is unbearable. They took them back 1,000 years and it cannot be repaired. And it's up to people like us, people who understand that the conflict did not start with Hamas. Hamas did not invent the conflict. The conflict invented Hamas. It's up to people like us who pay the highest price possible to face our nations and to share our deepest feelings and to be able to face the atrocities of our sides and confront them and tell the truth to our people. This is what happened, and in spite of it, we have no other choice. Really, we don't have any other choice. And like in the Israeli and the Palestinian high school classes, no one can listen us and remain the same. We have no other option but to talk to each other. We have no other option but to stop killing each other, because killing will not create any solution, because violence will not solve anything, because self-defense is not revenge. And we need to understand that all this killing brings us more killing. We have to remember that the killers of Hamas of the 7th of October were kids in 2015 when the former operations in Gaza. The cycle of violence doubles itself again and again and again and again. It's up to us to tell them, stop it. It won't take you anywhere. It just will bring you more blood and more pain and more anger. The only way to do is to sit down and talk. The only way to do is to share this land as one state or two states or 10,000 states. The only way to step out of this endless cycle of violence is by respecting each other. Respect is the key word. I have to be able to respect Bassam exactly as I want to be respected. No more and no less. All the rest are technicalities, can be solved.
Rami and Bassam, I want to talk to you for a minute as fathers, not as peacemakers or the protagonists of Apeirogon, but as fathers. You lost your beautiful
I have the feeling all the time, and especially these dark days, that Smadar is standing behind my back. I remember her voice in her grandfather's birthday, her involvement in what happened in her life. And I feel that she's pushing me forward. She tells me, don't stop, don't ever stop. I think that the way we are respecting the memory of these two young angels that were killed just before there is a conflict. I mean, the killers did not know them personally. And it's our duty, it's our mission, it's our task in life. It's what gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning, to shout out loud as we can, stop this insane behavior.
Sam, as a father, how are you feeling?
In fact, this is the motivation in spite all this pain, which is repeat itself again and again and again. For example, one of the things like for 2 weeks or more maybe, it's a Palestinian girl in Gaza. The age of Abir looks like Abir in the hospital, and she injured in her face. She didn't die. She was in the hospital. But she reminded Salwa, my wife, with Abir. Exactly. It's almost the same. So you can imagine. Today, when we see the Israelis and the Palestinian hostages who have been released, we always said we wish Abir was in jail. Those people, the hostages and the prisoners, they come back. Abir and Smadar will never come back. It's ongoing pain. But we try to make this pain as a motivation to continue raising up our voice. Because when people lose someone, then they understand that nothing worth to fight for. We are more important than any land. To see all those kids, it's unbelievable. It's inhuman. And we know in the end, as I said, as Mahmoud Darwish said, the Palestinian point, tomorrow the war will end and the leaders will shake hands. And this old woman will remain waiting for her hero husband to come back. And this woman will remain waiting for her brother to come back. And those kids will remain waiting for their father to come back. I don't know who sold the homeland, but I know who paid the price. And we are paying the price of this conflict.
Colum, the excuse me, the comments about Apeirogon are overwhelming in the chat. You gave us such a gift. You gave the world a gift by writing Apeirogon and putting it out into the world. And you gave us the gift of hope. And I'm wondering, as someone who delved into the lives of real people affected by the conflict, and in light of everything that's happened, how has your feeling, your perspective around hope changed since you wrote Apeirogon, since October 7th? Where do you get your hope from still?
I got a couple of stories. First of all, I did nothing to create Apeirogon. I just listened to these two men, and then somehow just like reached in and tried to tell the absolute truth of their stories. But two stories. Some people on here will know about the Lamed Vavnik, and that's that there are 36 righteous people in the world who supposedly hold up the sorrows of the world. It's a trope that's repeated in lots of different cultures around the world, that there are a group of people who have a line of communication with God, and they're the ones that help knit the world together and carry all the sorrows. But there's always one hidden saint or one lost saint who is cursed to bear the sorrows of the world without actually having a line of communication with God. And I feel that a lot of us are in that position right now, that we're sort of cursed to bear the sorrows of the world, and yet we have no line of communication, sometimes not even with our friends, or even sometimes with ourselves. So what do we do, and how can we sort of get out of this? How can we go towards some form of repair? And my mind keeps coming back to a little girl who walked out of a Swedish classroom no more than 6 or 7 years ago, a young girl called Greta Thunberg, who decided that what she saw occurring in the world was so vulgar to her sensibility, so wrong, that she was going to do something, and she just walked out of a classroom. And guess what? The next week, all of her classmates joined her. And guess what? The next month or the next couple of months, classmates from all over her country started to join her too. And now it's a movement. Some people will say that it has failed or whatever, but it doesn't matter. What she has said and she has been saying is incredibly powerful. That all of us have within us, even if you're a 13-year-old girl in a small Swedish school, all of us have the power and the ability to affect some form of change. What it takes is a sort of deep faith and a deep commitment to failure, in fact. You know, one of my favorite phrases from literature comes from Sam Beckett, who says, no matter, try again, fail better. And over and over and over again, I think of Rami and Bassam, and how do they get out of bed every single morning when you know, this sort of thing, people might say, well, you know, this is a failure for them. But no, somehow they have managed to turn this around in their heads, in their hearts, in their spirits to say, this is not a failure. This is something that we have to fight against. And so my answer to your question is that the hope is actually there. It has to be harnessed, but it also has to be, you know, risk itself. It has to risk embarrassment. It has to risk sentiment. Like, you know, we'll get called naive for saying the things that we're saying about going into schools. We'll get called naive by calling for peace. We'll get called naive for calling each other brothers, and that's okay. I don't care. Call me anything that you want. I know that these two men have suffered the greatest suffering, and that other people are now experiencing that suffering, and somehow they have the key. They have the key to helping us unlock something within ourselves that is going to be powerful, because guess what? We need to change. We need to put our fist down, and we need to walk out of that metaphorical classroom, all of us, and say something about what's going on.
I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll turn it to the Q&A, because there are quite a number of questions coming in. Again, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box. Rami, Bassam, Colum, I hope you're having a chance to read some of the messages in the chat, the overwhelming amount of support for the two of you, Rami and Bassam, and such gratitude for you, Colum, for the book that many people are calling life-changing. You guys, where do we go from here? What is the way forward? These atrocious events that have taken place have had repercussions all over the world. I know in the United States, there is tremendous divisiveness. We look at college campuses, we see that this conflict is right here in our backyards in the United States. What do you want us to do? And what do you want us to not do?
I will start.
I want to nominate you.
We need to stop this competition of victimhood. We need to stop this reality game where all the world is sitting on the balcony watching those two sides killing each other, counting the little bodies, blaming each other, and forgetting everything that was before. We need to give up two things which are basic and most important. We need to give up the victimhood mentality of each other, the Palestinians and the Israelis alike. And the Israelis will need to give up the Jewish superiority. Without this giving up those two basic things, we will not be able to move forward. We need to face ourselves. We need to take responsibility for our crimes, for our atrocity, and we need to face the other side with good faith, without blaming, because the game of blaming will take you nowhere, because there is always something which will be a new argument to blame you for. And we have to not to look back. We have to look forward. We'll have to look into the future. We have to understand that we are not going anywhere. We need to share this land. 1 state, 2 state, 10,000 states. And we need to, in order to get it, we need to start talking today, not tomorrow. Today, we need to start talking to each other, to respect each other, and to move forward.
Bassam?
In fact, for me, I want to see all the Americans or the British or the Germans together, who are pro-Israelis and pro-Palestinians, come together to be pro-justice. Justice for both of us, peace for all of us, security for both sides. So I agree with my brother Rami. We need to look forward in order to achieve justice. What Israel want? Peace and security. So why they occupied another land of another people? Occupation create resistance. This is the main goal. This is the common enemy between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So the most important thing is not to keep silence, to raise up our voice for humanity, for freedom, for democracy, to everyone, not only for the Israelis and not only for the Palestinians, for both of us.
Colum, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I see these words like resounding in all sorts of ways. I also see a lot of people sort of like shaking their heads and say that we can't do this. But the alternative, there's a poet, journalist, Tahir Dajout, who came from Algeria before he was assassinated. He said, "If you speak, you die. If you keep quiet, you die. So speak and die." And what we're talking about is having the ability to believe in the power of your own voice. Through Narrative 4, what we do often is we get young people and they stand up and say, well, I don't have a story. I don't have a story to tell, but everybody has a story to tell. And I do believe that the emergent force of what Rami and Bassam are talking about, the ability to somehow, decide that we need to listen to each other. Also to have organizations that do this, like your organization, like Telos, like so many other organizations. People don't know how many fantastic things that are going on in Israel and in Palestine. How many great organizations, Combatants for Peace, Breaking the Silence, all of these people who are standing up and saying very, very important things. I wish I could bring every person on this webinar today into Beit Sahur and to walk into the Cafe Singer in Beit Sahur to see all those young Palestinian people sitting there talking philosophy, talking poetry, talking all sorts of politics. These brilliant, beautiful people. We have this image, this narrow image of Palestinian people. We have a narrowing image of Israelis, which is just wrong. This monolithic idea about who these people happen to be, and the vast majority in the middle are so much more complicated, and this whole situation is sort of so much messier than any simple truth will give us. So it's our part as warriors to come up and say, we will embrace some of that messiness. The word Apeirogon, which the book is named Apeirogon, means a shape with a countably infinite number of sides. And there are a countably infinite number of sides here, but there's one deep truth, and that's what Rami and Bassam are saying. It's about respect and it's about justice.
And I would add that you can also invite us to speak. You can invite Rami and Bassam. You can invite the countless other bereaved members of the Parent Circle to speak in your community. I mean, that is a tangible thing you can do today. We're going to post the link about how to do that in the chat. I think we posted already. We're going to post it again. Invite us to speak in your community. We can do this. If we get 945 people to every single dialogue meeting, which is what we call this, we'll make a lot of progress very quickly. But even if we get 50 people at a time, if we can speak to 50 people every day, we're going to
talk to 5.
Rami always says, if I see one person nodding their head in agreement with me, I know I've made a difference, and I agree. I'm going to start taking questions. It's overwhelming. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and for your support and your questions. Joe Singer, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. They are asking, in the US, there is a burgeoning wave of banning books that tell complicated stories that confront mainstream fears. Meanwhile, in Israel and Parent Circle Families Forum was recently banned from speaking in schools. How do we find ways to tell our stories while the thumbscrews are being turned by those in power? For those of you that don't know, the parents before October 7th, I mean, it still exists right now, but nobody is focusing on this. The Parent Circle was banned from holding dialogue meetings just like this in Israeli high schools because it wasn't, it was disparaging the IDF supposedly, and it wasn't in line with the values of the government. So, I mean, that's the official language we got. Reading between the lines, it's like this is a way to control the narratives that young people are being told, and so narratives play such an important role in how we understand not only our history but our current reality. Colum, do you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, just very briefly. I mean, why do people ban things? Because they're scared, and and what is this fear? Fear makes money. Fear divides people. Fear, and there's a lot of people want to have that fear in place. But let's call them out in it. Why are you so scared about all of this? And in many ways, you can turn that power against them. It's like using a sort of intellectual aikido. They come at you with all these things, and then you sort of bat them away, and you use the power of it and turn it around on them. Like I wouldn't even mind if Apeirogon got banned in certain schools, because we would use it as an argument for why the message should never be banned, because their message is very simple. We need to know each other. Gosh, is that something to be scared about?
Well, only today I give a lecture in the morning to a school in the north, Israeli school, of course, 15 students in this very bloody time. And they were angry, when we start to talk, it was hour and 20 minutes. But when we start to talk, it went very good. I can say very good. They asked very difficult questions. They expressed their fears. And I answered them. It was amazing. So it means, in spite of that, there are people who are very determined to not obey such decisions.
I think the answer is very simple and very clear. If they will not let us in through the door, we will come in through the windows. We will always find ways to talk to people, to express our feelings, our message, because it's not in our hands. It's our mission. It gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and no one can shut us up and prevent us from speaking up. And this is part of the whole chain of events that led to the October 7th. I mean, this impossible ability to listen to things that you don't like, to listen to the truth, to listen to uncomfortable facts, to listen. Today in Israel, the word context is a dirty word. Once you say context, you are a collaborator with Hamas, you are a traitor. You don't say the word contest, you don't look back, you concentrate only on October 7th, which is wrong. And you need to be brave enough to tell them, to look them in the eye, and to tell them, yes, there is a contest. It doesn't justify anything. You cannot justify killing of little children. You cannot justify killing of innocent people. It's not about this. It's about understanding what is happening here. Why are we still fighting each other after 75 years?
And I agree with you word by word, except the window. I am limping and I cannot jump from the window.
Okay,
I
I'll
got
do
a
it
ladder
for
for
you.
you. We'll make a ladder. We'll make sure that you come down.
Voice-
So
Bassam, we will carry you like this, like a
Yeah.
baby.
Well, here's the deal, because it's really important that the two of you go in. Well, you can go in different windows, but the two of you are in the room together. It's not going to work if it's just Bassam. It's not going to work if it's just Rami. It's the two of you guys together.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try and compile some of these questions, as there's so many. So there are a number of questions about the media and how Israelis and Palestinians have received a different picture of what happened exactly on October 7th and what continues to happen in the aftermath in Gaza. I know for myself, when I was speaking to my Palestinian colleagues the days after October 7th, it was almost if we had two different realities. And people are curious, like, how do we fight that? What do Palestinians know about October 7th? What do they understand now? That's one question. Another question that's coming in different forms is about leadership, is about our governments, right? So we can talk to each other until we're blue in the face, but what about our governments? What about our leadership? How do we get them to listen? How do we get them to talk in this language and not in bombs and attacks and violence and death?
I said it before, and I say it again. If you're an Israeli, you will not be able to see what is going on in Gaza. You will not see the damage that is being made. You will not see the lines of little kids being killed. If you're a Palestinian and you watch Al Jazeera, you will not. You will find so many excuses to say that nothing has happened. It's like Holocaust denial. And it all comes from this victimhood mentality. It all comes from this competition of victimhood. The ability of each side to justify itself under any circumstances. And what I'm able to tell them is rise above. Don't fight each other. Don't be pro-Israel. Don't be pro-Palestinian. Be pro-peace. Be honest. Be pro-peace. Don't look at the facts in the way, there is a very famous song by the Israeli poet Natan Zach about the importance of accuracy. It's about the massacre in Sabra and Shatila in 82. And he counts the bodies, and he counts the limping that was cut, and he counts the little children, and he counts the pregnant women, and he counts, and he counts, and he counts. In the end, there is no one to count anymore.
Extraordinary. Can I just say, rise above, and also be confused. Allow yourself to say, I'm confused. This stuff just knocks the hell out of me. The reality of it just, I'm turned sideways by it. Let me listen, instead of saying I belong here. We all want to put GPS coordinates on our opinions, and it all brings us only to one particular place. Let's throw away some of that, and let's sort of try and embrace a messiness that's multidimensional, kaleidoscopic. Difficult thing to do, I know, but it is a very important thing to do.
Just 2 words about the media. Because I see both sides, because I understand a little bit Hebrew, it's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Especially the expert of the Hamas and the expert of the Muslims and the Arabs, Yecheskeli, or don't know what his name. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like he put my photo and he said, this man, his name is Rami Aramin, for example. But I am Bassam. No. They need to follow him. This is Rami Aramin, full stop. He understands that. They
He's
will
a
never,
terrorist.
yeah, they will never show like 5,000 Palestinian kids, 4,000 Palestinian women, for example. And the other side, we never saw Israeli civilians in the 7th of October. Up to date, we only saw like soldiers, how they arrest them, how they attack from far away. So it's the media cooperate absolutely according to the policy of the government. Like up to date, up to now, we never saw an Israeli hostage have been released to have one word with the Israeli media, for example. Why? What happened? Let them like talk to us what happened. In the same time, the Palestinians, how they told the story of their torture for the last 60 days since the 7th of October, how they treat them, how they deal with the prisoners. From the other side, we saw different pictures. In spite we live here, but absolutely we see two different realities.
About what you're seeing, Colum, in the US.
Well, I mean, just in relation to what Bassam and Rami were saying, and I see a lot of people in the chat talking about this. I try this, but nobody gets it, and they all want to isolate me. That's true, but you've got to be brave, and you've got to risk yourself. And I think eventually these two men will be on the right side of history. And I think if you look at yourselves and your own opinions, what we all want to do is to be on the right side of history. And a lot of that just means, shutting down different parts of an ideology that wants to isolate you into one place or another. I learned so much from these two men, from talking to them over the years. So I know how many people come to me and say, "Oh, I wish all Palestinians were like Bassam. Oh, I wish all Israelis were like Rami." But the fact of the matter is that so many actually are, and this is something that we also have to get out and about, and it's about being BRAVE. That's what it is. That's why you see the word brave in relation to these two men the whole time, in relation to you, Shiri, in relation to your organization, in relation to all those parents. And that's a bravery that we need to sort of make into some sort of virus.
They are incredibly brave, Colum, as are you. We're so grateful to have all of your bravery here today, and all of the people here today, and those that are going to be watching later. I mean, the comments in the chat are overwhelmingly brave. So thank you for that. Closing words from my three friends today. What would you like to leave us with?
I will have one last word, which I finish every meeting, every interview, for the last 20 years. The essence of the problem, the basic essence of the problem, is one nation dominating another nation, which is the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the siege over Gaza. This is the basic fact. We cannot escape of it. It's the big elephant in the center of the room. This is the whole idea. This is the whole issue. What happened on 7th of October is this exact issue, because the issue of Saudi Arabia and the trial to exclude Palestinians out of the process. And as a Jew, I will tell you that ruling and oppressing and humiliating and occupying millions of people for so many years without any democratic right is not Jewish. And being against it is not anti-Semitism. And if you get into an argument, you can quote me.
And I will finish with what Mahmoud Darwish said to the soldier. She's a woman in the checkpoint in his song. And he said to her, she said to him, "Are you here again?" He said, "Yes." And she said, "But I killed you yesterday. I shot you yesterday." He said, "Yes, you kill me, but I am like you. I forget to die." So both Israelis and Palestinians, they forget to die. We will exist here. Let us look forward and overcome this very painful past for our kids and the new generations on both sides.
Absolutely, and I will just say, I want to thank everybody who had the bravery to come on here and take part in this conversation, especially all the people who are here, listening to us. They came from all parts of the globe. This gives me a great amount of hope that there is a movement out there, and that we can harness the energy of that, because it's nuclear and it can change things. And I think it's available. And so I'm deeply grateful for all the 1,001 people and more who've been on here today.
Want to support this bravery and this hope, please support the Parent Circle. The link to our website is in the chat. We'll put it in there again. Sign up for our newsletter, send the recording to people, invite us to your community, support all the fantastic organizations out there like Narrative 4, like the other organizations that have been mentioned today. Rami and Bassam, I'm so honored that we could spend this time with you today. Colum, we are so grateful for your endless friendship and ongoing support, and continue to read Apeirogon and give it as a gift, because it is one of the greatest gifts that our world has received. Thank you all. And thank you to all of you for being here today.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Rami, thank you, Bassam. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Abu Arab, you are the greatest.
يسلم يا رامي، يسعدك حبيبي.
قلبي. مع السلامة.
تصبح على خير.